The clairvoyant Arthur Fort, famous all over the world, once spoke such astonishing words that many listeners were literally left speechless and could not understand how a rational person could make such a statement. He said the following: "The near-death experience he had gone through became one of the most significant events of his entire life. Of course, he would not wish anyone to experience such a thing out of curiosity or for entertainment. And moreover, he never encouraged anyone to hasten the end of their earthly journey. Everyone should live as long as they are given, but, in his words, a panicked fear of the end of existence makes no sense. The clinical death he experienced became clear proof to him that the spiritual immortality of a human being is real. It is one thing to hear stories from other people about the other world, even if they insist they returned from there, and quite another to visit the boundary of life yourself." Long before this incident, Arthur Fort had actively studied such phenomena, earning a reputation as an outstanding psychic, medium, and clairvoyant. Numerous studies acknowledged that Arthur Fort truly possessed an extraordinary supernatural gift. Fort himself recalled that his interest in the mystery of the afterlife arose back during the First World War, when he served in the French army. At that time, he first began to sense which of his comrades would soon be listed among the fallen, and remarkably, he not only guessed this without error, but also predicted the exact order in which it would happen. After the war ended, Arthur Fort devoted himself entirely to the study of various psychic phenomena. According to him, he even traveled to India, where he studied secret techniques of astral projection under the famous guru Swami Paramahansa Yogananda. Eventually, this led him to a professional career as a psychic and medium. In this capacity, in 1924, he went on a tour through the countries of New England, where his performances consistently produced a powerful impression, and many believed he was capable of reading minds. Arthur Fort became especially interested in the subject of the afterlife after he fell gravely ill. The illness was so severe that the doctors openly admitted they doubted he would survive. He was advised to put his affairs in order and, as bitter as it sounded, to prepare for a possible departure from life. However, despite the grim prognosis, Fort was not going to give up. He admitted that while staying in the hospital, each night he feared he would not see the sunrise. Here is what he said about that period: "It amazed me how slowly death was approaching me. But one night I suddenly realized that my soul had separated from my body and rose above the bed on which my physical body lay. I saw it from the outside, and to my surprise I felt neither fear nor regret. My body seemed to me like an old worn-out jacket whose service life had come to an end. I said goodbye to it and moved on, beyond the border of earthly existence." According to Arthur Fort, after this he began moving through space, and, remarkably, even without a physical shell, he continued to feel like the same person. Soon he found himself in an incredibly beautiful place surrounded by mountains. The green meadows were covered with flowers, and the entire space around him was filled with bright light. There he saw people, among whom were those he had long believed to be dead. However, among those he saw, there were many people he was meeting for the first time. Later, the clairvoyant learned that in that realm, the relationships between souls follow a special law of similarity. It draws them to one another as naturally as the force of gravity works in our world. After spending only a little time there, he felt as if he were rapidly falling into an emptiness, and this abyss turned out to be his own body. When the sensation of his physical shell returned, he regained consciousness. The doctors called his return to life a true miracle, especially considering that he had been in a coma for almost 2 weeks, and the medical staff were certain that the famous medium would pass away without ever waking up. Arthur Fort admitted that the true essence of a human being is the spiritual body, while the soul resides in this world only temporarily. He reminded that even ancient ancestors spoke of the dual nature of a person. We have a physical shell and a metaphysical body. And although different cultures call the latter by different names, its essence remains unchanged. It is connected to spiritual life. Moreover, the more science advances, the more evidence appears supporting this idea. Arthur Fort believed that the spiritual body consists of pure psychic energy, and its very existence indicates that a human being is immortal. After death, life continues, but in another form, According to the clairvoyant, sometimes this non-material body can even be seen. In his books, he provided numerous accounts of such manifestations. One of these episodes occurred on the vessel Julia Hollock. On that day, the schooner had departed from the shore and was heading west through the northern waters. The first mate entered the captain's cabin to make the necessary calculations. When he said the optimal course aloud, he did not notice that the captain had already left the room. Not receiving a response, the mate turned around and saw a strange-looking stranger sitting in the captain's chair. It seemed to him like a trick of the imagination, since such a person could not be on the ship. But concern overcame doubt. He ran out onto the deck and called the captain. When they returned, the stranger was already gone. The crew searched the entire vessel but found no one. All of this could have been dismissed as an illusion, if not for one truly frightening detail that sent a chill down the spine, even of seasoned sailors. Near the chart, the captain noticed that a completely new inscription had appeared on the slate board. Not the one he had written earlier. The board now read, "Enter to the northwest." The captain, shaken by what had happened, decided to trust the strange instruction. And he was right. After only a few hours moving along this course, they discovered a small boat trapped in the ice. On it stood a man who looked exactly like the one the first mate had seen in the captain's cabin. It was the very same mysterious stranger. When the sailors questioned him, the man admitted that a few hours earlier he had fallen asleep and did not remember what he had dreamed. But when the stranger found himself on board together with the other rescued people, he was struck by a feeling as if he had already been there before, even though he had never actually set foot on that vessel. Arthur Ford emphasized that the phenomenon of spiritual body projection, when the same person is seen simultaneously in different places, has been known to many cultures since ancient times. In our time, similar cases are often encountered by doctors, especially when a patient's life is on the edge. Most often, the spiritual body manifests itself at the very moment when a person is balancing between life and death. Arthur Ford explained that this can occur because of a severe injury, a serious illness, during a coma, or directly at the moment of death. Similar impressions are often described by soldiers who have survived battles. In the book A Man Cannot Die, Arthur Ford presented the story of a British serviceman who had been wounded in combat. The soldier recalled, "When I was wounded, I suddenly saw my own body sharply separate from me. It is a strange state. I'm standing alive, yet as if without a body, more precisely, without a physical shell. It is frightening, but at the same time it gives an incredible feeling of lightness and freedom." Arthur Ford emphasized that our material body is nothing more than clothing. Complicated, yes, but still only a temporary shell. And that other body, in which a person continues to exist after death, is their spiritual essence, and it is far more important than the physical form. He also said that some scientists believe the aura, which under certain conditions can be detected by instruments, represents an emanation of the spiritual body. The aura penetrates the physical body and constantly interacts with it. Clairvoyants who are able to see it describe it as clusters of multicolored lights. Sometimes the glow becomes so intense that it can even be captured in photographs. In addition, Arthur Ford argued that our material universe is only one among many. We only think we see the whole cosmos. In reality, various forms of energy are concentrated in the otherworldly realm, and when a person dies, the physical shell returns to the material world, while the true essence continues its journey further, into those realms that we call the afterlife or the otherworld. Therefore, Ford said, the question should not be, is there life after death? But rather, what is it like? In what form does it continue? Write in the comments whether you or your loved ones have ever experienced similar phenomena. Do not forget to like and click the bell so you do not miss new interesting videos. Thank you for watching. We wish everyone good health and long years of life.